Now the microphone is on. Good morning, friends. Good morning. I am so thrilled to see all of you here. And I am so grateful. I know you have come from all kinds of places. And this is a tough time of year to travel. We were obviously tempting the weather gods, not to mention all the viral gods and so forth. So really grateful that you've made the trip. I'm Danielle Allen. I'm a faculty member here at Harvard, director of the Allen Lab for Democracy Renovation, which is sponsoring this conference. We are based at the Ash Center for Democratic Governance at the Harvard Kennedy School. I'm going to begin by sharing a few remarks about why we are having this convening, what our hopes are for it. I have also a few formalities to cover, and then we will get into the meat of the day. We are gathered for the first time in a brand new space, the David Rubenstein Treehouse. We're very grateful to be able to be in this space, so I hope you all enjoy it. It definitely also means we're figuring things out too, ironing things out as the first users of a new space. So don't hesitate to give us feedback if there's something that doesn't work. We will collect that and pass that on. I also want to say this is a really tightly scheduled program. You should feel free to get up whenever you need to go get bio breaks, go get more snacks. There's also phone pods in various places around the building, so you don't need to feel sort of chained to your seat. Feel free to be casual about the time and space. But we are going to do good work. We're going to do some thinking together in public, which doesn't happen much these days, actually thinking in public. So that is what I'm most excited about. This convening has been long in the making. In the sense, it started for me personally in my own life as questions of political economy came into focus for me in ways that were not in the center of the academic conversation. Very specifically, I spent a lot of time in the late 90s, early 2000s, helping one of my cousins who was incarcerated. And I was, when he got out in 2006, so 20 years ago already, which is amazing to me, I was what I call cousin on duty. I'm from a really big family, and there are always some folks in trouble and some folks doing okay. So somebody's in trouble, somebody's cousin on duty. I was cousin on duty for my cousin, Michael, and put a lot of time and energy and heart into supporting his reentry. I was there the day he was released after 11 years and 8 months of incarceration that started at the age of 15. So it was a big day, a challenging day. First thing we did was go by a Target, get some khakis and button-downs and underwear, a whole new set of clothing, trying to start life fresh. Michael had owned his mistakes, he'd owned his responsibilities, he was ready for a fresh start. And I spent that summer of 2006 in LA with him, trying to figure out how to put the pieces together of a life. I come from a family that has had a long and enduring belief in the opportunity that this country provides, have believed that when you take responsibility for your actions and put in hard work, real possibilities will emerge. And we were there that summer in LA trying to put the pieces together, trying to figure out how to get some schooling in place. Michael had done firefighting in prison, so we were trying to figure out how to get him into one of the community college firefighting programs so he could turn that into a career. He needed a job, he needed housing. Each one of those things was its own odyssey, a struggle. But this piece was coming into place, that piece was coming into place. But finally, as we were trying to get all the pieces in place, last piece, trying to get a job at Sears put together for him, we were sort of sitting in the car and trying to figure out the housing piece. It was just a hot day, July in Los Angeles, boiling sun, looking at a map of the city of Los Angeles and realizing that the only educational program that had been available to him that was going to work for him was in one place, and 10 miles away, the only job that would take him after many, many rounds of applying for jobs in various places. And then 8.5 miles in another direction, third point of a triangle, the only place that housing was going to work. In Los Angeles, trying to do that with public transportation. And I just had this deep feeling in my bones that it wasn't going to work. And it didn't, ultimately, for Michael. And we lost him in 2009. He was shot and killed in a terrible incident by somebody he'd met while he was inside. But it was that moment sitting in that car, looking at that map, trying to figure out how to put those pieces together, school, housing, job, transportation, that I felt the social contract that I had believed in crumble in my own spirit. And so I've been on a journey ever since then to understand that, really, and try to figure out the relationship between our economic policies and the real possibilities we make available in people's lives. I have not been alone on that journey. All of you in this room have been pursuing those same questions, and I think questions of that kind have upended our economic policymaking conversation over the course of the last 2 decades. I've been very fortunate to journey in exploring these questions with a lot of colleagues who gathered here in December 2019, in fact, 7 years ago, after a set of convenings around the theme of the political economy of justice. And I'd love to invite my colleagues who were here and a part of that project, which yielded a volume called The Political Economy of Justice, to stand up. I see Rebecca, I see Mel Salter, Yochai is here. We've got lots of colleagues from around that. Danny is here. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating then and for being here today, because it was those conversations that have led to this convening. Those of us who worked on that volume put out that volume in 2022, and I want to read just a little bit from the introduction to it. We wrote this introduction in 2020 on the way to the production of the volume as the COVID crisis was upon us. And you'll recognize the vocabulary and the frameworks here. But I think not too much really has changed, actually. We wrote, democratic market societies are in crisis. Broad-based economic insecurity, rising inequality, and a resurgent nationalism expressed as anti-immigrant sentiment are underwriting a new illiberal populism in the United States and throughout the European Union. Mainstream media, scientific expertise, and judicial competence are challenged across diverse countries, and the pandemic has only brought these challenges into starker relief. We thought at that time that the 2020s seemed poised for a conflict between parties dedicated to nationalist populism and those dedicated to a pluralist democratic project. We also thought that it wasn't clear that the pluralistic side had clarity about how to integrate economic policy and politics into a picture of basic democratic commitments. We recognized that across the board, regardless of which side of a political divide people were exploring these questions on, people were bringing to the surface again basic questions of what the economy is for and who it's for. Basic questions about justice, legitimacy, human flourishing, ethics, and moral commitments. Our view was that we needed a big conversation with all the different points of view and different disciplinary perspectives around the table. We needed philosophers, we needed economists, we needed historians, we needed sociologists. And we thought that some new ideas would break through and would come into existence. Events then proceeded apace, and in fact they have, across 2 presidential administrations, both the Biden administration and the Trump administration. We've seen dramatically new approaches to economic policy making, whether that was the investments in infrastructure and industrial policy in the Biden administration, or the work on tariffs and reconsideration of the relationship between public sector and private markets in the Trump administration. So a lot of the standard architecture, intellectual architecture for thinking about economic policy has been upended over the course of the last decade. And again, beneath that upending, I think, is a pretty powerful hunger in a lot of different contexts across the political spectrum to think again about who the economy is for, what it's for, and how best we can actually deliver safety and happiness for any given people or society. In using those words, safety and happiness, I'm invoking one of my favorite texts, the Declaration of Independence. That phrase is the same as the phrase general welfare in the United States Constitution. Both of these are versions of Cicero's old argument that the purpose of law, the highest rule and purpose of politics is salus populi suprema lex esto, meaning the health and well-being of the people should be the supreme law, should be the guide for everything. At the end of the day, if there's one principle I would want to put on the table as the anchor for this conversation, it would be that one. That is, after decades where we are governed by the concept of GDP, for example, I think it's time for us to recognize that the economy is always for something. Resources matter, productivity matters, but at the end of the day, it should matter for the project of human flourishing. safety and happiness, as the Declaration put it, the general welfare, as the US Constitution put it. So that's what we're talking about today, really, all of the building blocks of an economy such as are needed to secure the safety and happiness of a people. I hope we can move the conversation forward. There has been a lot of novel thinking. There's a lot of disagreement. There's a lot of disagreement in this room, and that's a good thing, and we want to bring that to the surface and engage with that productively. So I have a final point to make about universities. Universities have to be the place for the hardest and best thinking. No other venue, no other institution can protect intellectual freedom at scale. This is the really important thing about universities. It's not just that we protect intellectual freedom, which we do, but that collectively we can actually protect intellectual freedom at scale. That is too precious to be lost, abandoned, or conceded. But to say that we're committed to protecting intellectual freedom means also that we must exhibit it in everything we do. That means respecting the full range of opinions, bringing contrasting views into relationship with each other and conversation with each other. This conference is called After Neoliberalism, From Left to Right, because we do want to find a way to have the whole conversation in the room together. We will disagree with each other, and that will be the fun and benefit of it. But as we do that, the goal, of course, I'm sure for all will be answering the question of how we do best achieve safety and happiness, well-being for a people. I invite you then, in other words, to join me in what I hope will be an exceptionally fun experience of thinking in public with people with whom we may also disagree. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I'm very glad to have you all doing it with me today. So, some formalities. The Ash Center acknowledges the land on which Harvard University sits is the traditional territory of the Massachusetts people. We also recognize the continuing presence of the neighboring Wampanoag and Nipmuc nations. As I said, we are honored to be one of the first events here at the brand new David M. Rubenstein Treehouse. Many thanks to the leadership and staff here for making this our home for the next 2 days. A lot of people have worked really hard behind the scenes to make this event happen. We are grateful to the Ash Center and to Archon Fung and Tim Burke for welcoming the Allen Lab to the center as one of its flagship programs. We want to especially acknowledge Ash Center team members, Melissa D'Angelo, Danielle Wireman, Courtney DeJesus, Colette Anton, Karen Duffy, and Holly Bianchi, who have been working for months to make this conference possible. I also want to acknowledge Senior Lab Director Darshan Gu, who is here somewhere, who's done phenomenal work all the way through. Also, thank you, yes, to Darshan. Also, Sadie Cox, who is my indefatigable assistant, who has, I think, just about the hardest job I can imagine for anybody. And I want to acknowledge the stellar events team at Current that has also pulled this together so beautifully. Jen, Chloe, and Logan, you've managed every detail of this program that we're all about to enjoy, and we are in your debt. So if we could give everybody a round of applause, I'd appreciate it. And lastly, freedom of speech and civil discourse are bedrock principles to the Harvard Kennedy School, the university, and our democracy. With that in mind, I would ask the audience members today, I would ask all of you to refrain from interrupting any part of today's discussion. While I understand that you may have differences of opinion, I would ask that you respect our speaker's right to speak, as well as the rights of the audience members to listen to today's speaker. More importantly, there will be an opportunity to ask the speakers any questions during the question and answer components. Anyone who disrupts this program and interferes with the ability of other members of the audience to hear what they have come to hear will be in violation of the Kennedy School and Harvard's policies. They will be asked to leave and may be subject to appropriate disciplinary actions in their school. About those questions, throughout the program, we will use Slido to submit questions to panelists. To submit a question or participate in a poll, visit slido.com and enter the hashtag #AfterNeoLib. I imagine that's probably on your program somewhere. So slido.com and then the hashtag #AfterNeoLib. You can also scan the QR code on the screen to be taken directly there. Finally, the Allen Lab would like to thank the Hewlett Foundation, and especially Jen Harris and Larry Kramer, for making this program possible. As we will hear throughout the program, their vision and support for the scholarship that animates the questions we will wrestle with have had a transformational impact on the field. The Hewlett Foundation funded the workshop that led to that volume I mentioned. They funded that 2019 conference, and this conference today is the true culmination of essentially a decade's worth of work and collaboration. So it's a real honor to have Jennifer Harris from the Hewlett Foundation here today, also to say a few opening remarks. She is the founding director of the Economy and Society Initiative at the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. She's a co-founder and co-chair of Build US, a $55 million philanthropic fund focused on maximizing the economic and decarbonization potential of recent federal clean energy legislation. From January 2021 to March 2023, she served as special assistant to the president and senior director for international economics on the National Security Council and National Economic Council at the White House. Her portfolio spanned a range of economic, national security, and decarbonization policy areas, including U.S. economic policy toward China. Earlier in her career, Jen was a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, as well as a member of the policy planning staff at the U.S. Department of State. I want to welcome you, Jen, to the stage. We're so grateful to you for making the trip, taking the time.